Hello and welcome to the PsychBoost video. In this short video we'll be looking at quantitative and qualitative data. We'll be defining what they are and we'll give some quick evaluations about what makes quantitative and qualitative data useful and what makes them less useful. So first up, quantitative. This is nice and easy to remember because quantity, is about the amount. So we talk about the amount, the quantity, it means data that we have a number for. Quantitative data is simply data in the form of numbers. Now if we want to gain quantitative data, we'll have to go out and collect individual scores from participants. To gain individual scores, we'll get these from large-scale experiments, where we might have many hundreds of participants carrying out a timed task, or gaining a score from an activity, or perhaps it'll be from sending out many thousands of questionnaires, including questions that are rated on a scale. So that's what quantitative data is. One very useful thing about quantitative data is we can analyse it statistically. We can gather all the data together and make means and modes, find standard deviations. We can display our information on graphs. We can summarise a massive amount of information in a really clear way. And we can even use statistics to find out how likely our results were found due to chance, so we can decide how confident we are in our data. We might also argue that it's objective. We might say that gathering a large quantity of data lacks the bias that comes with other options. Being able to measure data based on a scale of times and score, we can also be quite precise. It's often much easier to replicate quantitative studies and find the same results, so we might say that quantitative data is more reliable than qualitative data. And we can give a clear measurement of behaviours, especially if we're measuring behaviours on a scale. Some downsides to quantitative data there. We do lack a lot of the detail about what makes a behaviour quite interesting, usually because we're only looking at one factor, we're only measuring one factor in order to be precise. And often quantitative data is also collected quite artificially. If we're collecting in large experiments, or if we're just collecting from a questionnaire, we might suggest our findings lack validity. Behaviours aren't a reflection of how behaviours are in real life, and the collection of opinions might not have been given honestly. So on to qualitative data. So this is the flip reverse of quantitative. So it's got quality in it. So we might say there's a higher quality data given in the form of words. So we would gather this information maybe from transcripts of interviews. Maybe we'd do observations that weren't particularly structured, but just trying to see what patterns of behaviour emerge. And of course we might also use the case study, looking at one individual or one institution over a period of time. Some great benefits to qualitative data. If we really do get some rich and detailed information that's often missing from the quantitative method, because we often go into a real life setting to collect our data, we might suggest that the data has got more validity than some of the quantitative methods. It might be a truer reflection of how behaviour is expressed in real life. Unfortunately, it does come with some downsides. It's usually quite low reliability. One observation in one scenario often doesn't match with another observation at a later date. It's also quite imprecise. You might go in hoping to observe one behaviour or interview about one opinion, but you might not quite be able to narrow down what you're measuring. Also, there could be a role for subjectivity. If you're invested in an observation and you're hoping to find something from your observation, bias might come into this and you might see things that maybe aren't quite there. You might read too much into your observation, or you might read too much into your interpretation of what you've seen. One point to make about qualitative data is you can turn it into quantitative data. You can operationalize some behavioural categories. You can define what aggressive behaviour is in an unstructured observation, and then record the number of times that you saw this. And then you would end up with quantitative data, but you might still retain some of the advantages of the qualitative observation. So I hope you enjoyed this PsychBoost video. Please, if you haven't already, click subscribe. And if you enjoyed this video, give me a like. If you have any questions at all, pop them in the comment box and I'll try and get back to you. If you'd like the free resources that come with this course, I put the posters and some other things into this Dropbox link. Until the next video.